What doesn't get measured does not get improved. And that's just a fact.
On today's episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat, we talked to Eli from AMS Landscaping. We talk about what it was like to take over his family business and what he's done in order to build his team to what it is today. Let's dive right in. Eli, thank you so much for joining on episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat. What excites me is, we've been kind of working together, but even before that, when we were first getting to know each other, I could see the passion and what you have for the business that you've kind of grown. Also, multi-generation business, which is really cool to see it get passed through generation to generation. And so would love to hear just the story on how it all started, how you became part of it. And so I guess to kind of kick it off, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and kind of how you got started on the entrepreneurial path.
My name is Eli Hall. Obviously, we own AMS Landscaping. It was my grandfather's business. Actually started out as Champy Lawn Service in 1969. Moved here from Santa Barbara, like so many people from California, just came here to for the cost of living. And I think there was like a quake in 68. My grandma was like, we're out. So he came here with a pocket full of cash. And, he was a farmer. He owned 20 acres in Santa Barbara, and he actually farmed it. And so when he moved here, it was just his natural instinct to do something in the agricultural field. So he just started a yard service and did it for forever. It was just a one truck operation. A lot of my family had worked in it. My cousins, we had all kind of worked in it. And, it was just a one truck operation. He never really was trying to expand it. He was fine with his lifestyle of where he worked 6 days a week forever. Like He hardly had any days off. It's just that work ethic. He's an old school Italian guy. Grew up very in that, and he was a farmer. He was used to working every day, so it wasn't a big deal to him.
It was a break.
Yeah,
take an extra day off.
Yeah, exactly. So I was 26 when I decided to go to work for him full time. He was 79, and I knew he wasn't going to do it forever. And I, my college path wasn't promising for me. I didn't find myself driven by education. So I was going to college, but I wasn't really driven to do anything. Yeah. And I thought, well, nobody was interested in my grandfather's business, so maybe I'll do that. And so I worked for him for a few years. He ended up passing away in March of 99. And he worked up to 4 weeks up to his death. He was just like, he was, he got diagnosed of terminal cancer, and 4 weeks later, he was just gone. And so I was 26 when I took it over, actually 99. I just knew, I was going to be able to own this business. Yeah. All I was given was the truck, the equipment, and the accounts. Did not get a bank account, didn't get anything, which, fair enough. My aunts and uncles, they got their fair share of stuff, and I was grateful to just be able to have the business. And basically, I was the business. It's not like we had any technology at all. In fact, a year before, I finally started writing things down. My grandfather had everything in his mind.
That's
like
tough.
What people owed him, the schedule, everything was up in his head. And I'm like,
how did he do that?
He was in his 80s, is still doing it. And I'm like, this isn't going to happen. So I took some habits from an old job I had. I created these cards and the dates and how much people owed us. And that was back when you still advertised in the phone book. So took it over. Obviously here I am in my mid 20s. For me, it was exciting. I had a business kind of handed to me. It was just a one truck operation. It was really a job. Yeah. I was really just self-employed at that time. It really wasn't the business that it is today. And I knew I didn't want to push a mower forever, but I was so young and knew nothing about business. I remember when I first hired somebody to drive my crew around in the early 2000s, and I'm just going to kick back and, and what I found when I was young is when I had time, I spent money, and I would run out of money. And so every winter, thank God in the winter, I went back to work to build a reserve and mostly consume my time. Cause I realized when I was young, my time was like a drain in the bank account. So that kind of how it led to me wanting to get into multiple I knew if I could get into multiple trucks, I could make enough money and it would keep me busy enough that it would start to turn into a business. And that's kind of what happened. I started a second truck. That was early days of cell phones. I could forward the landline to my cell phone. So I was answering the phone in the second truck, and I just have one guy with me. And I would drop him off at a job site and go do a bid when I was in the area. And I just pretty much grew the company by answering the phone all the time and advertising in the phone book and in the newspaper, if you can imagine that. Back in those days. And I just grew it. And I knew I could, once I got to 3 trucks, I wouldn't have to push a mower after that.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's a lot of, I mean, one is the advertising piece, but 2, it's just identifying process, documenting them and have a process that just kind of runs the business itself.
Especially as you start to scale, you realize, you can't copy and paste and scale up without some sort of system in place, tracking everything. And I learned that later on as I grew that, when you're no longer on a truck, you have to watch efficiency. And if you're not careful, if you don't know what it takes to do a certain size property at a certain cost, what your hourly rates are. So I would start tracking. I didn't know it at the time, but it was my labor efficiency ratio. I track it now as an LER. But back then I was just like, I can only spend so much on labor per every dollar that I make, which is basically labor efficiency.
How do you figure that out?
I just, if my crew made if my crew earned $600 in a day, this was back in the day when 600 actually was decent income from a crew. I didn't want to, and this is when my overhead was nothing. I could not spend more than half of that on labor, but I could make a good living even spending half of that on labor back in those days. I ran the business out of my house, I was all the overhead. So every dollar I spent in labor, it brought me $1 in return at least. So I always did well with it. And of course, as I grew and my overhead got larger, so did my LER. So I definitely track a different LER today, but it's that's kind of how I learned early on. You always get bit, right? You always get stung. When something happens, you learn from it. I always tell people when you touch a hot pan on a stove, never to touch it again. In business, that's all that's happening all the time with just different aspects in business.
So what was the process that you took to get all these processes documented? And are you at a point to where someone can just pick up, a document, whatever it is, and know exactly how to do it? Because we're kind of running through that now. And that's something we're putting a lot of focus on is what does the onboarding process look like? How often do we have meetings, all that type of stuff, so that it's like, if I were to get hit by a bus, the company could still operate. And right now it wouldn't be able to, but so we're kind of trying to figure it out. How were you able to?
We definitely have systems in place. At different places, I record Loom videos for certain roles. And I'm still working on this too. It's a journey. It's always a work in progress. I tell people, if you think everything's got to be perfect all the time, you're never going to get anything done. And forever, I wouldn't do training because I was just like, the thought of all the things that I have to write down for training seems so overwhelming. But when I finally just kicked myself in the butt and did it, I realized, you only really need to start with the things. Like I painted a picture of my busiest day, and I thought, okay, I'm super busy and I lose my office person. I don't have time to train them. What do I want to say in a Loom video, describing kind of what the roles are on how to answer a phone? And it started there. And I realized quickly, because we had all these different verticals of how we made money. Yeah. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is going to be awful. Like if they want sprinkler repair, go down this path. If they wanted installation, go down this path. But there's like 10 forks down that road. And so I realized, I'm like, if I'm busy, I'm not going to take on anything other than what we're really good at. And I started my training around that. And so 99% of what we do is landscape cleanups and landscape maintenance. So if we're busy, if I lose my head girl in the middle of season, I am not going to take on any sprinkler repair if that's all it is. If you call and you're like, I got to clean up and I want some maintenance. Oh, and I have a broken sprinkler, all day long, we can take care of that. But if you're like just calling for sprinkler repair, here's a referral. If you're calling, you need pavers or something of this other stuff where maybe there's times of the seasons we get slow, we'll take on stuff that we don't normally take on. But all our training and processes are around peak season when we're absolutely the busiest, because that's what matters. And that's what's scalable. The other stuff, if you chase too many rabbits, you don't get any of them, right? If you chase two. So that's been our philosophy with training, and it's been really, really impactful for us.
So is it a lot of Loom videos? Like you just have a library of different videos, or is it like scripts?
It started there, and it was really with the urgent stuff. The Loom video I did for onboarding, our landscaper team role for if you're just a regular laborer on the landscaping crew, which is really the foreman role. And just elaborated for the foreman, but we actually have everyone go through it because, the whole goal is to get everyone to an upgraded position where they're moving up in the company anyway. So, but we want everyone on the same page when they're on the truck. And it starts there. And then we have, I use Google Drive like crazy. I have everything on the cloud. I can't stress that enough. So we have a lot of the processes documented there. What I like about Loom though is you can send that link to somebody and it tells you get an email that they viewed it. And then we have some qualifying questions we ask to make sure that they've seen it. We have qualifying questions when we're interviewing people to make sure that they really know what they're saying, or they really worked in the industry, that sort of thing. So that's kind of how we track it. And we put it in different places. And we have an incredible CRM too for running our business.
And what's the CRM that you guys use? Yeah,
so it's called Service Autopilot. And I cannot say enough about this software. It's all cloud-based. I originally, for years, was using a software called Clip. And it was you had to have access to my desktop computer to access it. And we printed route sheets and we did it for 10 years. It was a great system. But like the crew would write down their arrival time, their departure time, then they would turn in their route sheets at the end of the day. That was their time card. And we would enter all this data. We had all this data entry. And now with Service Autopilot, they just use their smartphone and they check in at a job, check out, and all the notes are there, explaining what's, included in the service. And if there's extras, if somebody calls us, calls the office right now and the crew's scheduled to be there in a couple hours, they can say, there's this bush on the left side of the driveway I really want trimmed. We can literally add the note in real time and it'll show up on the route sheets when the crew arrives later that day.
Once you brought in a CRM, get to data and analytics in a second. I love that. But once you started introducing more technology, we're able to see that there was a little bit of a learning curve, but it started creating more efficiencies. Maybe crews were able to get 1 extra yard done a day or 2, whatever it may be.
It enables you to scale, but really, even more importantly, we were pretty efficient before, but yeah, it's definitely exponentially efficient because, if you'd called and we were scheduled in a couple hours, we would have to notify you. We'd have to get all you. They have these printed route sheets like, hey, when you get to that guy's house, it was very paper trailish before, and the technology makes it so much easier in that aspect. But it also, what I like about it is it puts all the data in one place. So if I send you an estimate through our portal and then you call the office, the office person knows nothing about your property, but all the data is in the CRM and the estimates there, all my notes, if I was at the property. And so she can answer every question like she was there. There's pictures of the property. We always take pictures when we first, there's almost, we're all on the same page. And that's where it really helped us scale, is where we're at today.
And one thing that gets me excited is, you keep track of conversion rates by week, by channel, all that. You're very data driven or appreciate data, which I appreciate quite a bit. How much has data been part of growing and scaling the business? Is it something that can burden you, or has it been helpful in some of the decision making that you do?
What doesn't get measured does not get improved. And that's just a fact. And I've changed KPIs over the years, key performance indicators, I think is what it means. And I have actually a KPI sheet. I got to fill it out today. Actually, every week I have these things that I measure. And part of it is marketing, but also we track our sales on a weekly basis. Now, it would upset me that I would get a P&L at the end of the month and it would say, you did bad. They'd be like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
What do you do with a monthly result? And so I said, I need to track this more in real time. So we track our sales weekly, and this CRM allows us to do that, which is just awesome. I get a report emailed to me weekly. But even before that, I can pull up all the jobs in the dispatch for the entire week and see what kind of money we brought in for sales. And if we're trending on the up note, then I know we're good. And if we're trending down, if we had a bad week, I don't have to wait to the end of the month to find this out. I'm like, hey, what's going on? What is a capacity issue? Is it are we just not getting enough leads? Do I need to funnel more leads? I'm very in touch with that. Very cautious about what my cost per lead is, what it's costing me. And I'm very conscious of what our in-house conversion is, as far as when a lead comes to us, how many, right now we're about like 35% conversion. And so I measure that number weekly because I want to see the difference from week to week. Because if something's changing, red flag, you need to always be, you can't run a business without KPIs.
Yeah.
I just don't know how else you would do it. Yeah, things could be happening and you wouldn't even know it'd be right underneath your nose.
Yeah. And it could be 3 weeks where it's like, man, if I would have just changed that one thing, that negative could have been in the black.
Yeah.
And it's a difference between owing money and actually having money in the bank account.
Yeah. I mean, we've been speaking weekly now as far as regarding marketing, and just being able to just tweak little things at a time and knowing where we stand week to week has been so impactful. I mean, I've been so grateful for that.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but we're there, and I got to tell you that, that means so much. You can't measure what you're not reviewing.
Yeah.
And here we are reviewing it every week going, okay, let's tweak this. Let's play with that. Let's try this. Let's do that. And, any good communication in any business, communication, holy cow. I mean, I've grown my whole business on communication.
Yeah.
Contractors in all industries pretty much have a bad rap about not answering the phone. That, and we try to break all those, whatever people would call them, just the things that have been conditioned in people's mind, like, oh, you got to leave a voicemail. No, if we can't answer our phone, we have an answering service that picks up during business hours. I do not want it going to voicemail. I'm paying for a lead on AdWords or Facebook, and it goes to voicemail. You might as well throw it in the trash.
The conversion rate on that goes way down once. Yeah.
Garbage. And you see that stuff as you're more out of the weeds. So that's where the KPIs really come in handy, and you're not in the day-to-day dealing with putting out fires here and there, back to systems. And, we have systems of how we handle complaints. I don't even hear about complaints anymore. It's all managed. There's a system that, we automate everything, and it'll get to me if it gets bad. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, if it gets really bad, I'll whatever it takes, our reputation's worth more than any dollar amount, that's what insurance is for. If somebody has some really bad, costly issue that something happened, and let's submit it to insurance. I would rather not be in business if I can't provide a valuable service. I can be helpful and valuable to people. I don't want to be in the marketplace. Yeah. Why? Last thing you want is a bad reputation. Yeah. And that's the only thing that'll get you through anything.
And that's, I think, what got me excited when we first met at the Starbucks is, you could hear that. It's like you're either in business to make money or bring value, and then the money will come. But definitely have that passion for bringing value to the marketplace. And how has that open communication done in terms of just repeat business, reviews? You have tons of 5-star reviews. It seems like people are more willing to share the good experience because it's like a known thing that, like, if I try and reach out, I'm just going to get nowhere.
That was a battle I dealt with early. Not early. Early, I was really good at it. I answered every call. You couldn't put anything over me. I could take care of anybody. I made it right, and the buck stopped with me. But you can't scale that way. You can't grow. And I had definitely had some bumpy dirt roads we went down because of bad hires and bad situations. I can't always be on every job site, and now I can't answer the phone. If I answer the phone, I wouldn't be able to be here. I wouldn't be able to look at big picture things and, decide where to spend marketing, where to, do this or that. And if you're in the weeds of things, and I understand there's a control aspect of it, because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about this. They just have trouble letting go of certain things, especially Yelp. Yelp has got this, you get addicted to it. And I am addicted to Yelp, where I just want to respond immediately, I want to earn those 5-star reviews, and I've earned so many of them. And I would let go, and then I would get stung, right? Because somebody else didn't have the heart I had when they were handling it. And you'd get a bad review or two, and you're like, it's just so, but until you learn from those lessons, you won't be able to grow, and you have to be able to grow. You can't answer the phone all the time. Not if you're going to, scale, you can't be, In-N-Out Burger is great. But if there was only one location, we wouldn't know about it, right? It would be California, Yeah,
if the owner was the one flipping the burgers, taking the orders, making the fries.
But it's great, and you can go anywhere, and it's great, right? It's great, and that's kind of what I tell people. In-N-Out might not make the absolute best hamburger, but they make a darn good hamburger, and it's reliable, and it's consistent, it's fast, and it's reasonable. And, I don't necessarily think we're the best landscaper, but I want to be the best business owner that can deal with a client and make them 100% happy. At the end of the day, our mission is to make yards enjoyable. Yeah. I tell my team, I want our clients to have a cup of coffee in their backyard on Saturday morning and just breathe and watch the birds. And I don't want them thinking about, I've got to deal with this, or something's wrong with the yard, or is there a sprinkler broken? I want them to enjoy their yard, especially now during this time where we're kind of stuck at home, That's really what we're trying to accomplish,
There's always that, someone doing it themselves, they can grow it, but it gets to a certain point where it plateaus, and you either have to, like you said, delegate, kind of let go a little bit. So, were there any things that you kind of stumbled on getting to that point and getting over that hurdle? What was the biggest thing that was the hardest in terms of getting to that scaling point where it's kind of, you had to delegate, let go? Is it just the trust thing?
There's been a lot of those. I'll tell you a recent one. Up just to a couple of years ago, I was still doing majority of our estimates, and I realized it was a job that I still had in my business. And it was just one of those things that was hard for me to let go. And I actually enjoyed it. It gets me. I like to be outside. I don't want to be cooped up in the office. I actually like getting out there, meeting customers. I'm a connector. Like I speak, I like to connect with people, and I love giving value. I love the appreciation when I show up and I deliver, great service or offer help, or even if it's just advice. I love doing that stuff. And letting go of that role was difficult. But once again, I kept running into this roadblock where I would grow and then I would die out. Like I couldn't get over this. I called it the glass. I can never hit. And I'm still on this trajectory to hit 500 residual maintenance clients. We're at 383 this morning, so I track that. It's another one of my KPIs. But there's a lot of things I learned in the last couple of years. But one of the things I realize is I can only do like about 10 estimates in a day. Yeah. So that's great. But if I'm ever going to hit 1,000 customers, there's just no way. Like what ends up happening is I can do only so many estimates. I can bring in so many leads, and we're very stuck in this bottleneck. And what I realized is we're never going to get past a certain level if I can't somehow automate or systemize the bid process. Either I got to build a system and hire people to do it, or I got to simplify it and automate it to a way so we don't have to be on site. And that's really what's paid off. And what we did is we went through all our existing client base and we pulled up all the lot sizes on Zillow, and we started realizing, okay, this lot size, we charge this lot size. It's like, why are we going out to these properties? Let's just give them the price over the phone. Call us. We'll give you a price over the phone. You email us. We'll send you a bid right away. We even had like ballpark prices for what cleanups. If you have a 9,000 square foot lot, we had a ballpark price of what the average cost was for a lot that size, and instead of us like getting to your property and going, it's going to be this much. And like, oh my gosh, that's, like I can at least let them know, listen, our average cleanup for this size is maybe it's $300, If they're like, well, that doesn't sound so bad. I need this place cleaned up. I actually thought maybe it might've been more, or that was close to what I was going to spend. Awesome. We'll go out there, confirm the price when we're on site, and just do the work. If we're in that realm, we'll just get it done. And if it's more, we'll call you and get approval at that point. And what we found is a lot of people were good with that, but more people were like, oh, I really like a more accurate price. I'm like, send us pictures, send us current pictures. And so they started sending, we get a lot of just people go out with their cell phones, snap some pictures and send it back, and we give them a confirmed price. And it's been great. And what I realized is we can do more than 10 bids in a day. So what does that mean? Now I was bringing in probably about 100 leads on average a month. And just between myself, and we had a couple crews that could do estimates too. So if, Chris was on this side of town already, like, go look at this house for me. You're in the area. This, she wants to clean up, whatever. And he would do the estimate and save me a little bit of time. But now it's all through email, all through phone calls, that we're not spending any money on on-site estimates at all. There's no, it's just literally our office personnel handling it. There's a calculator right in our CRM that just spits out a price based off the lot size. And so it's been helpful. It's helped us scale. And now my goal is to get 200 leads down the funnel. And that's what I'm working with you on, which we actually in March, we hit 205. We had 205 leads come through, We had about 186, I think, in April. And we laid off the gas a little bit in May. A lot of reasons, but one of them was capacity. We lost a crew foreman. So we needed to ramp that capacity back up before we really cranked up the ads. And we're really trying to fine tune the cost per conversion, right? So I can just hit the gas and then I can make my goal 300 leads down the funnel, right? Because now that the estimates are pretty much infinite, we can just get more office personnel to help us do those estimates, help us on the office.
And have people appreciated that process a bit more, because then it's not like, oh, well, now I got to wait a couple hours to come out. I mean, has it been a rocky process trying to figure it out?
You know, it was nerve-wracking in the beginning for us because it was new to us. I think customers, I just think they just, oh, this is the way you do it. You know, like before when you took a cab, you didn't think that you would ever pull up a smartphone and you'd see it. You know, we didn't know what Uber was till we had it. And then when we had it, you're like, why would we do it any other way? Right. So I feel like, I'm shocked. So I was probably converting closer to 40 to 50% on site estimates. Cause you know, you're in person, you know, you're presentable, that there's obviously value in that. And so we're closing at a lower, 30 to 35%, but I can fill the funnel.
But you don't have the gas costs, you don't have the human costs, sure, the conversion rate is lower, but there's not as much cost to actually close a deal. And so overall, the margins, I'd assume, have gotten a little bit better.
The margins, actually, ironically, the margins are all better. Because what we found when we went through our whole history of all our old clients and realized, wait a minute, some of these people are underpaying us. And then you go look at our budget times, like, oh my gosh, we're spending an hour at this property and she's only paying us for a half hour. Like, it's not right, So we definitely would work it out so that it was fair all the way across the board. So people, apples for apples. So if I was doing your yard and the neighbor's like, hey, I heard you're doing it for, Dustin's for this amount, I probably can honor that price because it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with your lot size. So it made it really convenient for us, efficient for us. And I was pretty surprised. We didn't lose a lot of clients, even increasing the ones that were a little, we usually give them 30 to 60 days, a window to be able to figure out what they want to do. Because obviously we've been doing it for years and we had to do things. But what we found is we became more profitable. Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
No, that's exciting for me to hear, because that's literally what we were talking about an hour before you came in is, when it comes to digital marketing, it's just like, you got SEO, it's just like having to come up with a custom proposal every time. It's tough. You can only do one or two as you're trying to talk to clients. And so it's one thing we're trying to really work on is SEO. Here's the 4 different price points. Here's what you get. Here are the deliverables for each one. Trying to make it more productized. That way we spend less time actually trying to figure out a custom proposal, more time just showing the value of what we can actually bring. And so after hearing that, I'm pumped because it's tough.
Listen, for you, without a doubt, you should have packages online with a little click buy me button. That's an auto pay setting. Man, what I do with the market, what I know now about business, I've been doing running a business for over 20 years. And man, I have another entrepreneur friend. He goes, you should have these things that are just I forget the term he used. So they're just like, they're non-negotiables. I will never take a client on without a credit card up front. It's just a non-negotiable. It's going to be an auto pay type situation. And if I can build a system where everything's simple and there's package pricing and you go to the car wash and you have 4 packages to choose from, right? You get the basic wash, the mega wash, like that. Everything should be that simple. And it's great for the client because they know what they get for their money. And it's great for your team because they know what to deliver for what what they've been promised. So it's a win-win all the way around them.
That's what we're trying to focus hard on, because you have different conversations like, oh, well, this is what we agreed on. And it's just like, there's nothing set in stone on if they get this is what they get, and everyone's on the same page. And so we're trying to get to the point where it's just like, we offer SEO, content creation. Here's package 1, 2, or 3, hit buy now. Boom. It puts you on reoccurring payments and you're month to month, but let's go. And then it just takes so much less time. It used to take a week to get a proposal out and stuff like that. Cause it's always like, well, there's this and it's, and then you get a no. It's like, man, what could I have done? You're
reinventing the wheel for every client.
Exactly.
That's what you're doing. And that's not scalable. That's just, I'm going to tell you, it's just not scalable. So if you can build these wheels that find your customers that'll fit in, the package that they need, and your packages can change. Like you're like, okay, this isn't working. Like this SEO package, we need to change it or whatever it is. I always tell people, nothing's set in stone. Anything can be changed.
And I'd assume that once you got your pricing going and all that, as you started seeing things come back in real time, I'm sure you adjusted pricing and all that. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Is that an ongoing process typically?
Yeah. Now we look at that at least once a year. We try to go through our client list and we try to see the jobs that we're not as efficient at or that we're not as profitable at. Those. If you're doing pretty well as a business, and you don't want to just. I don't feel, and there's two mindsets of this, but my thought is if we're going to increase a segment of our client base, why don't we increase the ones that are paying us the least for what we're providing? Because if we're going to lose one, I'd rather lose one of them than one that's we're profitable with. So, but I have a mentor of mine that ran a really large alarm system, kind of like an ADP type, but it was different. And he sold it 5-6 years ago. And he said every 18 months, just right across the board, he did a really, it went from 2152 to 2205. It was insignificant, but across the board. And he had thousands of customers. I mean, you just do the math. Yeah. And people kind of get used to that. If you're not, it's fair. I mean, gas prices go up sometimes. I mean, cost of goods. Yeah. I mean, restaurant prices are going up. I just went to a restaurant the other day. I'm like, oh my gosh, the prices are just like flying off the handle.
3 months of revenue to make up for.
Yeah. So, I mean, it happens. It's normal. And it's not like, if you're gluttonous with your price increases, it can be an issue. But, we found a client that went from every 2 weeks to every 4 weeks, and then went back to every 2 weeks, and we kept billing him for every 4 weeks. And so we didn't catch it for like a year. Dang. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, you're paying like the wrong rate. So I adjusted, and she was upset normally. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to, basically it was doing her yard for half price. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to take food out of my kid's mouth to do your yard. Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, I don't say that, but that's kind of how I feel, At the end of the day, I love doing what we do. But we got to eat, we got to pay our bills, and we need a strong team, man. You cannot scale without a strong team, and you need to be able to compensate your team, and you want to make your team enjoy coming in. That's another thing. I hear so many stories about people that just have challenges with like building their team, and I've had mine, and I still do. We still run into our challenges, but there's just so much opportunity there.
And one thing that I love, I mean, watching you on social and stuff like that, I mean, you go hiking, you're out doing a lot, as you mentioned, you're just a people person. How much has networking played in growing your business? So
I did a lot of BNIs and LaTips and that type of, chamber. I'm just an outgoing person naturally. It's been helpful in the early days, but as you start to scale, you just find that, marketing is really where the growth is. I mean, you don't get 10x growth going to a BNI meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe if you just start out, you get 10x growth, but not if you're at, $500,000, $1 million, $2 million in sales. You're not going to get 10 times growth going to a BNI meeting. So you really have to look at other avenues. I've got a friend of mine that just signed a deal with iHeartRadio. They're going to be running ads with John Jay and Rich on 104.7, which is awesome, but he's next level. He gets 200, 300 leads a month now, and he needs to go to that next level. So, and ironically, I met him in a BNI, so he was at BNI, but he's not going to get the growth he wants from that type of networking, although you make great connections. Connections are more than just about getting leads. I think building relationships. You and I met in a connection. There's so much more for me. Networking is connecting is so much more than just. In fact, now I am actually in a networking meeting now, and I tell them what I do, but my ask is usually, let's do a video. I need some content this month on something related to landscaping and your industry. Let's do that, because actually I enjoy making the videos. It's fun. I find it enjoyable. It's great about owning a business. You get to pick the things that you want to do, that you can do. Like if I love still doing bids, I would do them. Yeah. I mean, I didn't for a long time. I really did enjoy them, but I realized I was getting in my own way. But you get to pick the things that you're good at, that are fun. And if you're smart, the things that you don't like, you write down and you hire somebody to do them.
Immediately.
Yeah. Like if there's funds there, it should be spent on things that that are draining, right? You're going to be a better employer if you're happy. And most people are pretty happy if they've just got a job and they know what success looks like. They know what their tasks are and they know what it looks like to get their job done. And people just want to feel fulfilled. Like they're a part of something, right? And they have to feed their family. They got bills to pay. But at the end of the day, if they don't feel fulfilled, they're not always happy.
You're only as strong as your locker room. And it's just like, to your point, it's like if everyone feels like part of a team, you go out there and execute a lot better. You just win more games. And it's such a huge part of what we're trying to figure out how to grow and stuff like that. And so just being together as a team is a huge aspect of it. And as we kind of just wrap things up, I mean, you've done a lot you started early on. I mean, you've grown it from just yourself to having teams, creating process. I mean, you've done a lot. What is one piece of advice you have for maybe new entrepreneurs or people that are just starting off, trying to figure it out?
New entrepreneurs, probably a different level. Just start tracking early. I meet one guy operations all the time, and I ask him, well, what are your daily sales? I'm like, daily sales? I'm like, well, track what do you make daily? That number is so important. If you know what you make on a good day, you know what a good day looks like, you start getting better at saying no. And it's hard early on to say no. So my early entrepreneurs, I, get a pad of paper and just write down your job and how much you made. The next job, how much you made. Next job, and so, Penny, some guys I have a handyman I help out. He might do 2-3 jobs in a day. And, if he knows a good day, he makes $1,000. It's hard to look at somebody that's like, I want this new door installed. It's going to take you half a day, but they only want to pay you $200. You're like, I just made $1,000 yesterday. Why would I spend half my day for $200 here? You start to, we get as entrepreneurs, we stick our nose down and we just work, right? We can work our way through this, but you really got to work smarter too. So from early adopters, I would tell them, somebody starting off, track your daily sales. It's so impactful. And then as you grow, you keep tracking, but you track weekly, monthly, obviously. And when you've got more of a business, somebody, when you got a team and you're doing pretty well, I cannot recommend it enough. This organization's changed my life. It's Entrepreneurs Organization. Is EO is what we all call it. And to be in the club, it's like basically a kind of a club where you're around your peers. You experience share. We're all type A. We're all successful businesses. EO, you have to make $1 million in sales or more. And so you're around your peers, people that are dealing with similar problems that you're dealing with. You have employees, you have payroll, you have issues, and we're all type A. So we're very, nobody's there going like, you should do this. It's more like, oh, I experienced that where I couldn't make payroll and I didn't know what to do. And well, this is what happened with me. And you tell your story and everyone gets value out of it. You're like, wow, like, holy cow. Some of the crazy stories you hear is amazing. And they've got a program that really changed my life before I was able to reach that milestone was the Accelerator program. So if you're making $250,000 in sales or more, you can go into, it's kind of like a school to get you into the larger level. And it's based around Rockefeller habits, the Verna Harnish's second book, Scaling Up. And they basically teach people day, execution day, sales, and strategy. So those are the 4 subject matters you deal with on a quarterly basis. You spend all day at a quarterly with 50 or 60 of entrepreneur peers at your level. And then you meet monthly with a accountability coach. And he basically just holds feet to your fire. You're around 4 or 5 of your peers that are your level. And there's one entrepreneur from EO that's doing above $1 million in sales. And basically he's been through all the experiences, right? So when everyone's telling their experience share and saying, this is where I'm challenged, this is what I'm dealing with, we're able, the entrepreneurs, the head guys usually share a lot, but it's impactful what goes on in that just peer to peer. Like there's so much value. And in fact, sometimes the younger entrepreneurs that are getting started are trying things that we, TikTok's big right now. Like, I don't know anyone doing it right now that's in this group, but you're always surprised. Like you'll find somebody that's just using a new app or using something new that you're like, what? And it's helping you with your business? How? And it's always some young guy coming out of nowhere. He's making a ton of money and you're like, how, what? And you're like, okay, I got to try that. So some of the guys that have been in Entrepreneurs Organization for a while, they get a lot of value, coaching the accelerators because they're coming out and they seeing like that's going to disrupt my business if I don't get in on that and see.
Yeah.
So it's a great organization.
Check it out.
It's so awesome. Like, I can't say enough about it. I joined about 5-6 years ago, and I wouldn't be here where I'm at today without it. My big thing was I couldn't get out of the office. I was really good at managing my team, and I was good at being the overhead, but I couldn't get away. I couldn't hike in the mornings. I had to be at the office. I had to meet with every foreman before they left, because there was always things to go over from the day before, or there's things that came up that are going to happen the next day that we need to talk about. And I always had to be a part of that. And I can never hire my role. I can never copy myself. And so it was it was a big challenge for me. But man, I made a lot of mistakes getting to where I'm at right now. I'm not going to lie. Just in the last 5 years, I made a lot of mistakes, but man, have I come out a better person, a better human, a better husband. It's amazing, what it's done for me and my entire family. So can't say enough about it.
There's just so much to be said about just passing knowledge. I mean, that's learn from others' experiences. I mean, that's part of the reason I started all this, was just to highlight what other people have done, what they've gone through, and just pass the knowledge. I mean, that's more knowledge you can suck up, the better decisions you can make, and come out less cut up.
Why make a mistake some 10 other people have made already when they could be like, stop, wait a minute, we did this, it didn't work. We did this and it did work. Well, I'll go this way, right? So that's all it is. And it feels so good to be able to help somebody. It feels good for the entrepreneur. Obviously, the entrepreneur that's making change feels great. And then what gives nothing but desire to give back the other way. Like, oh, well, what are you doing with your marketing? Oh, well, that's, hey, I can help there. So it's amazing how we're just there for one another, and how it's like it's turned into this family for me. It's definitely, I hang out with different people that didn't hang out with before. So
I mean, that's where the process docs all come in, is trying to take a step back and not be the one that has to be the main focus of decision making, communicating, and all that. It's tough, but it's a big goal. And then that way I can do some more. I mean, I need to get back in the gym. I need to do a lot more stuff. Sure. I mean, I am. 4:30 in the morning to 10 at night on that computer.
I know you answer my emails sometimes on the weekend. I think it's crazy much, but I was there, so I get it. Like, I'm being empathetic when I'm answering you that way. Like, stop answering my emails. It's out of empathy, because I know I was there, and I'm like, I just want the best for people.
Cool.
So, have you heard of Trainual? Have you heard of that, sir? So Trainual is a huge company. I'll have to explain to you, but it's basically you can build your whole training process on this online platform. And the guy grew his business right out of Entrepreneurs Organization.
Really?
Yeah, the guy's
I want to get more information on that.
I'll have to tell you all about it. And a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, the Loom videos, a lot of it's on the back end, but it's all very systemized.
Well, I really appreciate the time, Eli. How can people find out if they need to get their yard done or want to connect? How do they find you in the business?
Yeah, just go to our website, azlawns.com. I love it if people could follow me online on Facebook at AMS Landscaping. Our YouTube page is huge. I love posting content there. That's also at AMS Landscaping. We do a lot of stuff on Instagram. My Instagram handle is AZ Lawns. But we love giving DIY tips, do-it-yourself stuff, and just being helpful for people. And when they're ready, if they need some help, even if it's a one-time deal, would love to be able to help them out.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I love about what you're posting as well. Is it's none of it is salesy. It's all do-it-yourself, and it's giving value, and that's just going to bring business your way for the people that that sounds good. Thanks for giving me the keys. I just don't want to drive.
Yes, that's exactly right.
It's really cool. Well, I really appreciate the time.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.